Good morning, everybody. It's so fantastic to kind of be here again this year. My name is Anthony Brown, Director of Solution Architecture and Design for Avaya in Australia. This time last year, we were all on the Gold Coast, largely unaware of the year ahead. We just put some hand sanitizer on our stands and various other things, but I don't think we truly appreciated the impact of what last year was going to be. I certainly didn't realize it'd be the last time I'd be at the airport for nearly 11 months, a first for me in probably 20 years. But like the past year, we've gone from face-to-face meetings to remote virtual sessions, and increasingly now to hybrid sessions, a mix of both of those working modalities. I was expecting to be up in Sydney to present to you live this week at Dalton House, but as I'm based in Victoria, it was decided it's best I stay away. But for a moment, a small moment, in what's become a bit of an Avaya tradition at the previous Customer Contact Week events, I very nearly considered putting my Avaya red pants on. Don't worry, that's one step too far for home, I think. So I think I'll leave those in lockdown until the next time we can be together face to face. Fortunately, working for Avaya, I have access to a great many powerful technology solutions to help me with a remote working environment. I have a great desk set up, which is very useful for us working from home. I also have access to some exceptional online and real-time communications tools to help keep me in contact with my team here in Australia, but also with Avaya colleagues all around the globe. Over the last 2 years, the Customer Contact Week events, we've continued to focus on the agent experience. So here's a quick recap of what we did last year. We started with talking about converting contact centers into customer advisory hubs. But we also asked, is someone missing from your customer journey? In almost all cases, the agent was missing from the customer journey maps that people outline for their organizations. Possibly the most crucial touch point and certainly the most valuable touch point in the interactions you have with your customers, your agent. Don't miss your agent from the customer journey map. But we also presented the 5 customer experience superpowers that agents need to have to be able to fulfill the requirements you have for your customer service nature. Those 5 superpowers were super insightful, context. What should you know? What must you know? And be sure that you know that information at the moment of truth when you connect your customer to your agent. Super knowledgeable. How do you empower your agents with the knowledge they need to manage that customer interaction first time, every time, reliably and consistently, so you get a very consistent and accurate customer service experience for your customers? Super intuitive. How do you augment that knowledge that your agents have with real-time artificial intelligence to provide further insight on how to manage an interaction more effectively? Super connected. The ability to seamlessly reach out to the broader organization, wherever they may be, to seek help if needed, again, to service that customer experience and that customer inquiry as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Now, that's taken a whole new meaning over the last year, as we've had increasingly agents working from home and working from remote locations. Avaya alone have enabled more than 2 million people globally to work from home over the last 12 months. Bringing all that together forms the super productive superpower, an agent interface that allows them to have all of that information available at their fingertips quickly and efficiently in a single pane of glass. Critical element to be able to meet the needs of that customer service interaction. All of these superpowers, of course, have underpinning technologies to help you better serve the customers and deliver on the promises that you make when you connect your customer and your agent together. I say promises, that's plural. There are 2 promises that occur during that connection. Firstly, you promise your customer that I will connect you to somebody that can help you. The second promise is to your agent. I promise that I will connect you with somebody that you can help. Our agents fundamentally are geared to help the customers they are connected to. That's what we want to do. All of us, even as human beings, if we're unable to fulfill the requirement expected of us, we don't feel good about it. We need to be able to meet both promises, a dual promise at that moment of truth when you connect your customers together. But perhaps given the year we've just had, we should add another superpower, a 6th superpower to the list.
Good.
We clearly want our agents to have all 5 of these superpowers, but how do we also achieve sustainable performance and mental wellness, especially with a year like the one we've just had? Gallup reports that 1 in 4 Australians will experience a mental health issue in their lifetime. And that really got us thinking about the role that technology can play in assisting organizations with this. But at this point, it's time to introduce my co-presenter, Lawrence Mitchell. Lawrence is the founder of Raw Energy and Finding Equilibrium. For those of you that attended Customer Contact Week last year, you would have heard Lawrence's keynote presentation on wellness. And after his presentation, he and I spent quite a lot of time discussing this topic in depth. My colleagues and I had already had an idea about the role that Avaya could play, but we needed a much broader understanding of the problem, leveraging his professional experience and knowledge to explore potential solutions and how we can make a difference. So with that, over to Lawrence, and I'll be back shortly to talk about what we've been up to.
Hello there, so I'm Lawrence Mitchell, and as you've been hearing, I'm the founder of Raw Energy and Finding Equilibrium, and I also head up the Wellbeing at Work business here in Australia and across APAC. Collectively, we're focused on making well-being a board-level priority. So we've been on this journey for a while, but the pandemic has certainly helped raise awareness of well-being, particularly psychological well-being, because increasingly we're working with our heads rather than our biceps. We run events and programs around the world, helping people find equilibrium using our whole person well-being framework. So let me start by asking you a question. Do you have a mental wellness strategy in place? Now, if the answer is no, don't worry. You're not alone. In fact, most companies don't have a mental wellness strategy in place, although we're seeing increasing numbers of strategies being created to support the challenges that we've all been going through. Once upon a time, well-being was considered a peripheral topic, not worthy of executive attention. Not anymore. Well-being, particularly mental well-being, is now being discussed in boardrooms around the world. Whilst mental wellness has been a mega trend for many years now, with 1 in 4 Australians experiencing a mental illness at some point in their life, what's changed during the pandemic is that the pandemic has made us all aware that we all have mental wellness, we all have mental health, and we all need a robust inner support system in place to help us cope with uncertainty, to help us cope with change, and to help us find equilibrium, to help us find that point of center where we can do our best work. I'm a huge advocate for proactive prevention because prevention is so much cheaper than cure in both emotional terms, but also in economic terms. I was looking at the World Economic Forum estimates that the total cost of mental illness to the economy is 2.5 trillion, an eye-watering, staggering amount of money that could be redirected into so many more fruitful activities. So let me define what we mean by mental wellness. A great definition, one that I really like, comes from the Global Wellness Institute, an internal state that helps us think, feel, connect, and focus. It brings together the fact that we are whole people with whole lives, and our thoughts and our feelings are all interconnected to create a state of well-being or ill-being. So let me ask you another question. Who is responsible for well-being? The employee or the employer? This is a question that I get asked a lot, and the answer is both. We as individuals are responsible for our own well-being, and there's a huge amount that we can do to affect how we feel. And the business, we are responsible for creating environments to support and enable our employees to be well in the context of work, and to create psychologically safe environments that enable employees to flourish. So what is the role of business when it comes to mental wellness? Business has a huge role to play because businesses have access to millions of people. and can provide education, inspiration, and access to services that impact employees, but also their families and their communities. We like to think of well-being on 3 levels. The me level, my well-being. As an individual, what can I do to bring me back to that central position, the position where I can think more clearly and be in a state of flow? The we level, what can we do as a team to find equilibrium, to help us operate in a much more integrated and cohesive way? And the we level, what can we do to impact the wider business and the well-being of our customers and the communities that they're part of? All of these levels are interconnected. So what can a business do? It's easy to jump in and just start doing. We see that all the time, and it's definitely better to do something than nothing. But what I've learned is that unless we have a strategy in place, a lot of that effort can be wasted. A strategy provides a solid foundation to enable growth and to bring together all of the different tactics and areas of activity. Here's a simple strategy that I use to help companies put in place a mental wellness strategy. It starts with understanding where your starting position is, asking questions like, how engaged are my employees? How are my employees feeling? How do they feel before, during, and after a call with a customer? What is my turnover? What is my absenteeism through sickness rate? And then creating a vision. What does the vision of the future look like? What kind of culture do we want to work in? How do we want our employees to describe our culture? And then action. What initiatives can we take to build that bridge to that future vision and track the impact along the way so that we can course correct? Having run a big global well-being program for employees and work with clients around the world, I wanted to share with you some of the initiatives that I'm seeing of best practice so you can be guided by other leading companies. So let me pull some of these out. So one of the big things that we've seen over the last 12 months has been a huge increase in connectiveness. Speaking to employees as individuals, checking in with them is something that many companies are doing. But as well as that, using wellness as an opportunity to connect people to each other. Wellness festivals has become quite common, running those virtually to engage people in wellness, in their own wellness, so that they can start to upgrade their own habits and their own routines. Increasing the capability of leadership and management. We all know that one of the greatest impacts on mental well-being is the role of the leader and of the manager. And many organizations are investing in training leaders, training managers to be able to feel more comfortable and more capable having uncomfortable conversations. Upgrading policies to take account of the fact that we are now living in a hybrid world. Work is no longer a physical place that we go to, but a mindset. And we have to be able to support people in the context of work, wherever that work may be. 2020 has shown us that we don't need to work in a traditional environment to be productive. And then finally, providing all kinds of tools and services to inspire individuals to start on their own journey to wellness. Mindfulness training, nutrition training, exercise classes, lots of different modalities to recognize that we are all different. And the important things are to move our body, to eat well, and to sleep, and to pay attention to our sleep. But how we do those things will determine on the individual and the context, as we are all different. So this journey, of course, like all journeys, is full of challenges. And some of the challenges that we're seeing are the fact that the system is complex and people are complex. We're emotional, we're unpredictable, and we don't like change. Getting engagement in initiatives is also a challenge. We see a lot of companies, amazing initiatives, but then fail to put the level of resource into engaging and advertising and promoting so that the initiatives get the level of participation that they need. Measuring ROI of the initiatives. It's very hard to measure the exact impact of a particular initiative, but it's very critical that we do if we want to sustain investment so that we can see the sustained performance changes that will really move the dial in business productivity. And then having access to data to really understand the starting point and answering those questions that I mentioned before. They're easy questions to ask, but very hard to access the data because we don't have the tools and the data is all over the place and may not be tracked at all. So what is the solution? We're at an interesting point in time when awareness of the problem is greater than it's ever been. But the solution is multifaceted. It requires input and collaboration from multiple experts. And technology and data has a critical role to play. And that's why I'm super excited to be part of this conversation. And whilst the last 12 months has been an extraordinary period in everyone's lives, I'm delighted that Avaya have taken the initiative and started to create a solution that can really help overcome some of these challenges. And on that note, let me hand you back to Anthony, who will talk you through what Avaya have been working on. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lawrence. I'm sure you'll all agree this is a critical challenge and we as a community need to work on finding a solution. But to really emphasize the criticality of this need, I want to just share with you something that, share with you a conversation that I had at Customer Contact Week last year with one of the delegates. We were discussing this topic, as I say, it's all pre-pandemic. And what he said to me was in the 20 years of being a contact center manager, he had never had an agent just not return from a shift, return from a break for a shift. Never. But in the prior 18 months, he'd had 2. And both those agents could have done with some additional support and help. Something had to be done. But before we get to that, I'm curious. How many times do you survey your customers in a week? How many times do you reach out with a post-call survey, with a post-chat feedback form, with an email about their stay, their interaction with the contact center? We're all familiar with post-call survey applications. Frankly, we probably get surveyed too much as consumers. But the reason we do it is because there are critical insights available there for us to determine what is the service we're giving our customers. Is it effective? Is it the most appropriate service? Does it meet the competitive standards we need to meet for our industry? Does it meet our service levels that are committed in other organizations as well? So we do that so we understand the voice of the customer. We understand, are we meeting our desired objectives? But now ask yourself, how many times do I survey my agents in the last week, in the last month, once a year, twice a year? I imagine there's probably quite a big difference between those two. But conversations like the one I had at Customer Contact Week last year, and many others we've had even prior to the pandemic, inspired us to think more deeply about the role Avaya could play and the technology we could bring to bear in helping address this issue. For quite a few years now, research has clearly shown that you cannot have happy customers if you don't have happy agents. This is well understood and regularly referenced. Indeed, I did so myself last year in the super productive superpower component. But as technology vendors, we've tended to focus on the tools we provide as a mechanism to support this finding. That's nice, but it's not enough. It really isn't. So we have created a solution to address this properly from the agent's perspective. The solution we've developed has a number of elements to it. Firstly, simply, the ask. Are you okay? But when and how often to ask is a really important part of the process. On the one hand, it's necessary to have an overall pulse of the contact center. What does it look like at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the working week? But with the technology we have available to us uniquely today, we could do so much more than just a period in time component. But even in its most basic form, simple call metrics, such as the length of the call, the number of holds that the call, maybe how many times a call might have been transferred. All of these are traditional metrics that we've often used from an agent quality management perspective. Are the agents doing the right thing by our customers? Are our customers getting the right level of service? They are customer focused. Yes, they may identify training needs for the agent, but they're not looking at the overall agent wellness strategy in here. But in a modern environment, we have the opportunity to do so much more than that. I mentioned this a moment ago in talking about super intuitive behaviors. We can use artificial intelligence to understand what actually happened in that call. What was the sentiment of that call? Were expletives used? Was aggression seen on the call from either side? All of these are interesting indicators of things that we could and should act upon if necessary. But there are many others. The system is designed such that lots of different external actions could trigger a post-interaction survey for an agent to see, just check in, see how things are. How did you feel about that interaction? But of course, the supervisor needs to be able to manually initiate a survey as well. Surveys and supervisors can be delivered in such a way that a supervisor says, okay, well, I know that a particular agent has had a lot of difficult calls today. I've listened into some of those as part of a service observing process. They're in tune with what their agents are doing, the workload that they have on, or they should be. So supervisors can initiate a manual survey for a member of their team also. But of course, once we've collected all of this data and fed it into our database, the next step, of course, is, so what? We've ticked one of Lawrence's boxes around the robustness of data, but so what? Of course, there'll be beautiful graphs and fancy reports, and no doubt somebody will want to export the data into a spreadsheet somewhere along the line. But the data and the analysis of that data should provide crucial insight into the mental wellness of your teams, your center as a whole, particular sites, the overall organization supported across the entire contact center environment, wherever they may be. But the important part about this is then the actions. And the actions can be so much more than alerting a supervisor that a particular agent might need to go for a coffee or something like nature. Just check in with them and see how they are. That might be one action, of course. But there are technological actions that can be triggered as well. For example, maybe we want to give an individual agent a little bit extra time after an interaction, additional after contact work time. Maybe we want to dynamically schedule them another break, a longer break available to them. Maybe we want to dynamically adjust the skills and the priority and proficiency levels of those skills in the routing engine such that they no longer get the more complex and more difficult cases for a little while, just to help them reset a little bit and help them recalibrate where they're at if that's all that's needed. Of course, the action itself needs to be formed as part of a more general and strategic customer wellness strategy. We can collect the data, we can analyze the data, but the strategy is down to ultimately yourselves. So what does this solution look like that we've created? This is the Avaya Agent user interface, Avaya Agent Workspaces. The solution is designed to meet primarily, of course, the superpower of super productive. It's a single pane of glass that allows us to bring together all of the different components that we need to empower an agent, the knowledge, the insights, the connectiveness, that they need to be able to service the customer as appropriately as they can. But as part of the mental wellness solution, what we've also done is it layered in a surveying component for the contact center. And at this stage, there are two types of survey represented here. The top one is the pulse style survey. What does it look like at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the work week, or as frequently as you deem appropriate to deliver to the contact center? Of course, you mustn't over-survey as part of this process. Interesting to see how a pulse varies as well overlaid against traditional metrics. So what does the survey look like during our busy periods, during particular business events that may have been sparked across an organization, pandemic outbreak, for example? There are lots of things that we can overlay this data with to get some insights as to what's going on. The lower survey is a simple example of a survey question that can be presented after a contact is completed. So we've seen a particular contact complete, we've seen certain actions in that interaction, and it's caused us to have a look at, do we need to check in with that agent? We've said, okay, we've seen this, therefore we need to do that. So there are lots of different event scenarios that we've discussed a moment ago that could be used to initiate this survey to an agent. But both of these survey types are necessary to provide the insights into the overall well-being of the agent population and delve deeper into the support a specific agent may require. Now, at this stage, and this time of the plenary session, I would normally be wrapping up and asking you to come visit us on our stand. Usually our stand is hard to miss in the breakout areas. It's very large and very red and difficult for us to miss. However, in this hybrid time, I can't really ask you to do that physically. So instead, I'd very much love to hear from you by other means. My contact details are displayed on the screen in a QR code. Interestingly, the pandemic over the last 12 months has taught everyone how to use QR codes, it seems, as well, which is interesting to see. But I would love to hear how you are measuring the well-being of your team. What are the technical challenges that you're facing in supporting the strategy? What sort of events would you like to see initiate surveys to your agents? What are the things you can think of that would help there? The platform we've created allows us to incorporate all of those into the design. Of course, happy to talk to you about that also. In addition to this, Lawrence is generously offering his experience through a free mental wellness audit session. His details are displayed on the screen also and available through the event app, of course. So please reach out to him and see how he may be able to help you. To access the audit session, you'll need to use the QR code displayed on the screen and complete a few short survey questions. In the meantime, I very much appreciate your time. This topic is one that's become a real passion for those of us involved deeply in it over the last 18 months or so. I hope you found it valuable and interesting to see what we've been up to. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, be kind, and for those of us that need to, mask up. Thanks, take care.